Hey everybody, I'm Todd with Sweet Tea Guitars. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel and welcome to my life. So, I've already discussed that I am building two guitars this time. The first one, somewhat a traditional telly-based design. However, I've changed a few things. So that is my body shape, roughly. Now, I'm apt to change my mind at any given time here. All right, so where we are right now as far as work goes, I just wanted to show you guys real quick what I'm thinking on that body. I am so on fire about this, guys. One more little tidbit of information, I promise we'll get to work. So I've been talking back and forth with C. Jacobs Woods, which is where I have gotten so far pretty much all my figured maple I've gotten from them. Neck blanks, a few top sets. I ordered 10 sets today, 10 top sets. He made me a killer deal on them. They're on the way. I've got my edge guide attached to my Makita. This is I made this plate right here because the round base of this router, this particular router, is so small, it's like 3 inches in diameter. It has a tendency to want to fall into the cavities when you're routing. I didn't want to have to keep changing bits and taking the plate off of my table router or my big router to be able to route from the top. I've already got myself a stop glued right here, masking tape and super glue trick. Anyway, let's get this truss rod channel routed. I'm excited. By the size of the little chips this router's taking, I can tell that my bit's running pretty much at the optimum speed. I want to be at 8.5 millimeters deep on this thing. And right now we are at 6 millimeters. So I need 2.5 more millimeters. Of all the different ways that I have tried cutting a truss rod slot, I have to honestly say that is how I prefer to do it right there. No jig, clamp it to the table, use an edge guide, and get after it. That truss rod slot is about as perfect width-wise and depth-wise as I'm gonna get. It is just below the surface. Now obviously I've got some work I need to do down on this end. I need to route that just a little larger. So I'm going to flip the truss rod upside down. We need to square this end up right here with the chisel. And then I need to widen this out just a little. So from here, we'll make ourselves a line with our square. I've still got my arrows drawn on the neck blank here to let me know that this is my reference side. That is where my stop needs to be for that wider part of that route. Right there. So I used a 1/4 inch Tideway carbide bit for this first section of this truss rod slot, and I really love those bits. For the price, you absolutely cannot beat these. So check those out, Reds on eBay. Really nice bits for the money. We're still in the center. I don't need to change anything else. So there's my bottom. I'm going to drop this about 3 or 4 millimeters, 3 probably. And we're set up to make that cut. All right, guys, continuing on. I had to go get my coffee. I can't seem to go like 10 or 15 minutes without thinking about where's my cup? Where's my cup? Where is that cup? Anyway, I found it. All is well. Catastrophe averted. All right, let's get the rest of this truss rod channel routed. Always burnish your tape down. If you don't burnish it, it can release on you and cause you an issue. So try to remember to burnish it. We'll double check where our stop needs to be. We're good. We're good to go. All right, let's get this thing routed. I'm going to slow the bit down ever so slightly. And I can see that it's a little deeper on this end, just like I planned. All right, let's square these edges up. I just want to take another about 1/2 of a millimeter out of the bottom of this channel, just where that nut sits. All right, that should get us where we need to be. All right, what we'll do now is square this end up so our truss rod will come right to the edge here. That is about as good as you are going to get, my friends. So I'm going to take my square and I'm going to check it all the way down through here to make sure I'm not above the neck surface. And I don't know if you guys remember, but I wish somebody would call me real quick and remind me what fretboard I said I was using on this thing. Inspiration will guide me. It'll be okay. Let's run this piece of Zerakote across the jointer. So this is what it looks like now. Look at that, man. I love Zerakote. That is so, so beautiful. That is going to look so nice on this neck. Let's get us a square edge. I want to be really light with this first pass. We got ourselves a square side down this side. We're surfaced here, but I think I want to have that be the glue side. So let's surface this on this side and see what happens. We're getting there. Let's make sure we're not getting a bunch of tear out. But guys, seriously, look at that. That is just wicked. Wickedly beautiful. I can't decide which side to use. I'm happy. I am getting excited again. What I'm doing right now is I'm going to mark out my fretboard. 21 frets. I've already started. You can see that right there. I have got the Maximum Guitar Works fret slotting jig. You'll notice here all these slots on the bottom. Those are for an index pin, but you can also use these to draw up a fretboard. There are other people out there that make fret slotting templates out of metal and out of acrylic, none quite like Steve's. I personally think Maximum Guitar Works makes the best templates that you can possibly buy. Let's finish drawing this fretboard off and get these fret slots cut. And now what I want to do is use my square to just mark where my fret slots need to be. And I want to be really super accurate. I'm using a 0.5 millimeter pencil for this. 21. All right. And I've got this saw set up to be a pull saw. So I like Centom's fret wire. And as you can see, I've got plenty of it. And I will probably switch over eventually to some stainless steel as well. But for now, I'm really a fan of this Centom's fret wire, I really am. I'm going to cut my slots at about 3 millimeters deep. I've got a line drawn in the bottom of this miter box that pretty much tells me where this needs to line up right off the bat. And I'm not super concerned if I'm not quite deep enough. I will absolutely have to go back and clean these things up anyway, you know. I actually kind of like doing this by hand. I mean, it kind of lends itself to the whole hand-built philosophy, you know. And they're turning out really nice and straight. I don't have an issue with them. All right, it is hot in the South today, my friends. All right, guys, so I got like 3 more slots to cut, and I wanted to show you what I do when I get down towards the end and it starts getting harder to hold, you know, just that little bit of fretboard wood there. And since I'm trying to keep my same reference side, I just take my little ratchet clamp and clamp my fretboard down in the bottom of this thing, and that gives me a little extra support. Two more and we're good to go. Fretboard slotted. Now, let's find the center line. So I'm going to get my little ruler and I want to measure an equal distance from the side, the very edge of this fretboard along this nut line. And it's looking like I am right at 70 millimeters. So 35 would be the dead center. And here is where having that fretboard template comes in handy. Because I can at least, the fact that it's made out of acrylic, I can position this on here and find out how far over I can actually go. And what we'll do is make ourselves a reference mark right there. Let's measure over to that line. We're sitting at 42 millimeters. That would be the center line. So I'm going to come back this side of it just a little. We'll make it at 40 millimeters. All right, I'm going to come down to the end and I'm going to measure over 40 millimeters. There's our center line, even though it's nowhere near the center. That's fine. So now what let's do, let's take our longer ruler. Let's make sure we transfer that line end to end on this fretboard so we can copy that over to the back, or at least to the ends. Now I'm going to draw myself a reference line on the end here so I'll know where to line it up on my neck blank. And there we have it. This is going to be a beautiful neck. While we got this fretboard placed on here, let's go ahead and just make some reference points for our fret markers, even though I don't even think I'm going to put fret markers in the center. So what we got to do, I've got my shape drawn out on there. You guys can see that, I'm sure, or I think you can anyway. I've got my neck blank with my template shape traced out on there. We'll line it up like that on my template, and I'll cut it well outside the line. Then we'll finish up that, clean cut it on the router table. So let's pan over here. I'm going to cut this neck shape out on my trusty little 3-wheel Craftsman bandsaw. And I did get me a new magnetic light for this thing. I bought 2 of these. One here, and then one's on my spindle sander over here. I'm just going to cut this down about, I don't know, a mil or 2 outside the line. Let's get this neck blank done. Always save your drops, even like that. You know, I got that little glue up piece in there. I may decide to make a handle or something out of that, you know. Now these, I won't save. These, we will absolutely save. Starting to look like a guitar neck. Pretty cool. Let's get this center line transferred on the back of our neck so we can see where we are here. There's our center line transferred over onto the back. One more thing I want to do. Let's transfer this nut line around to the back, or at least on the sides. All right, that looks pretty good. All right, we got a decent reference there and a good reference there too. So I feel pretty confident that now I can trace this out onto the back of the fretboard like so. And I'm not even looking to cut this on those lines. I just want to make sure that I am well outside of those, you know what I mean? Let's take this to the bandsaw now that I've got that shape drawn off on there, and cut this at least a couple millimeters beyond where we drew our line at. I can carry it straight to the router table and not have to cut the excess off with the bandsaw once I get to that point. So that's one thing I thought of when I was building the GGBO guitar that I would do different next time, is go ahead and cut some of the excess off of the fretboard. There's our fretboard, and my, how beautiful that is. You don't want to skimp on any of that markup stuff. When you are figuring out this early in the game, any little bit that you're off now can become magnified, and it gets exponentially worse throughout the build if you do not take your time and get everything correctly drawn out at this point. You really want to pay close attention that you're doing this properly. So I've got my fretboard clamped to my neck blank with a couple little ratchet clamps that I got. I really like these Jorgensen Pony ratchet clamps. I got a 5/64 drill bit in this drill. What I want to do now is drill myself a hole into the fret slot off to one side. Just like that. Make sure you're in the fret slot. You know, and away from the truss rod. All right, that looks really, really good. So I'm going to take a little nippers and I'm going to nip off the very point of that toothpick. These are just regular toothpicks. Let's put us a spot of super glue on the end of here. All these are indexing pins. Do not glue the fretboard side of these things. Clean the glue off the best you can and then clip this a few millimeters proud of the surface. Just like so. So we got our two indexing pins. We know they work. Holes in the fret slots were good. The fret will cover that up. You'll never know it was there, but it will save you so many problems. We're going to cover our truss rod with this 1/2 inch tape. And the reason I like to use 1/2 inch for this is because it keeps us from having to cut away the excess. It's already done. Let's get some glue spread on this thing and get this fretboard glued up. Why don't we? All right, let's spread our glue out. Pull our tape away. I've got so much sanding left to do, I'm going to clamp straight to the fretboard. And you don't need much pressure anyway. I just want enough to get nice even squeeze. And remember guys, I like to go down the length of the fretboard. I like to work my way from one end to the other, if that makes any sense. And as long as this neck's flat, like it is right now, we can do anything we want to it. I mean, if I want to put binding on this fretboard, I can still do that. It's not a problem. I'm going to attach this neck. I've got masking tape on the back of here already. I have burnished this with my little brass weight. Let's take some super glue and I'm going to apply the super glue. I'm just going to do this pretty kind of visually. I want a nice bond, but I do not want to glue the template to my neck. So I want to make sure that I'm, on the tape with the glue. Little CA activator. You don't need too much of this. I want to make sure my nut is lined up here. All right, I think we're good. All right, I want to make sure I'm nice and firmly stuck down on here. I really cannot stress how nervous it makes me going across the router table, especially right here on this corner. I really like those stripes. That's turned out really cool. The back's awesome. This is nice and smooth down the sides. I can't wait to shape this thing. It's starting to look like a guitar neck at this point, so that makes me really excited. Let's get these holes drilled for our tuners, and I want to tell you guys about a couple of things I've got going on. Got my coffee, as always. Oh yeah, before we go any further, I almost forgot. I saw myself on camera. I got my Sweet Tea t-shirts in. So there we go. Yesterday was my birthday, July the 28th. Today's the 29th. My wife got me a box full of Sweet Tea t-shirts. There are 3 or 4 people I've already promised when I got t-shirts, I'd send them one. But if any of you guys are interested in a Sweet Tea t-shirt, hit me up. We'll talk about it. Email me at sweetteaguitars@outlook.com. I may send you one. I'm going really slow with this. I've got a backer board and I'm drilling from the back to the front, even though I'm not getting any. There's no tear out in that. All right, so there are my tuner holes drilled. And don't look at those 2 lines too long. It'll make you see crazy things. So on this build, I am using the Kluson Revolution tuning machines. 6 in line, 19:1 gear ratio. I like the way these look. I really like the tuning buttons. There is no seam around the outside edge that you see in some of the cast tuners. That is a sign of a quality tuner. I wanted to give them a try anyway. I had read a couple other guys talk about how much they like them, and they are a 19:1 gear ratio. I'm to the radius, but I'm not finished sanded yet because I have not drilled the fret markers in. And before I went past 80 grit, I wanted to drill the fret markers in. That way when I catch that final sanding on the fretboard and get it ready to actually press some frets in here, I can catch the any oversize that's left. Do we want to follow the taper? I think that's probably the way to do it, because if you don't, it's going to create, something's going to look like it's not straight. When you use this punch, you want to make sure that you're using it accurately. So let's give us a little light here. So how I like to do that is I start by lining it up on my mark and leaning into this, making sure that I am on the line, and then punch. There's my first mark. The reason I like doing this is because once you see where you have made that mark, if you're the slightest bit off, you still have a chance to be able to correct that when you go to the drill press. You know that, you've got, at that point, you've got a visual aid to guide you. You can see now that I have got indentations here, 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 here. I'm all about some learning, and that's why I'm doing this. There's plenty of guys out there making videos on building their own guitars, but I also hear a lot of guys on YouTube blowing their own horn, and I'm not knocking anybody, and I would never call any names about that. That's not who I am. I want to do what I want to do, and for those of you guys who are into that and can appreciate that that style, then I want to share it with you. That's all this is. I'm not trying to claim that I'm something that I'm not. I just want to share my knowledge. That's all. And as I learn it, I want to give it away. And I don't think that's a problem. As a matter of fact, I wish someone had done that for me long before now. I wish I would have got bitten by this bug to want to build long before now. I've been a guitar player for a long time, but I've just got into building a couple of years ago. And it's brought so much joy to my life. I absolutely love doing this. That's what I want to share with people. All right, so let's get over to our drill press. And I want to do this process before I've done no shaping whatsoever to the back of this neck. We still have a nice flat surface to deal with here. I want to do everything I can that needs to be done like this at this stage before I take this neck any further in the shaping process. I was gifted this from Crimson. This is a Triton portable oscillating spindle sander that also comes with a mounting kit that you can flip this thing upside down and mount it to your bench, your workbench. I've thought of a few things that I really believe this is going to be really great for, and I absolutely want to use it considering where it came from. And I was gifted this simply because of my attitude and my passion. So that makes me feel really good about it. So I'd like to really take a minute to thank the guys at Crimson for doing that for me. I appreciate it. I know it was James and Ricky and Ben who decided to gift me that. I was the first person who received a spot prize after the competition had ended. We'll get these holes drilled for the fret marker. Now, the one thing I do want to do on this, I'm going to put myself a little piece of tape around the drill bit. And I would not do that if we were actually drilling a hole in something. But since we're just drilling in what I guess we could refer to as a recess, then I think this will be fine for that. Plus it'll act as a little fan to make sure that we don't go too deep. I'll go really slow on these. I do not want any tear out. And I can feel the drill bit pulling itself into the indentation that I've made with the punch. I like that. I think that looks pretty cool. So there's where we are, guys. Let's get some pearl mixed up in with this epoxy. I've decided I'm going to go with white pearl. This is white pearl powder, just a little. That's more than enough. You only need just a little bit. And I'll show you guys how all this works. So this pearl will mix into this 2-part epoxy resin. You will absolutely need some heat for this, and you can either use a heat gun or you can use flame if you prefer to use fire on something. I know how some of you guys really like to play with fire. I do too, so I understand. So first I'm going to mix this up. I want to add just a little of this pearl powder into this. We should be good and blended at this point. And I've got a nice opacity. You guys can see that there. I can't see the wood through the liquid. This is a touch-up syringe. It's made by Easy Mix. It comes with a little synthetic swab on the tip, like a cotton Q-tip, but it's tiny. And that's made for filling in scratches and stuff. I cut that tip off. That's how I'm going to use this to fill these cavities. So let's pan down here. I'm going to draw some of this up from the bottom, and I'm going to fill this tube up with this epoxy. I'm going to hold my syringe tip at the bottom of the hole, fill the hole up to slightly above the level of the fretboard. All right, I think we're good. I'm going to swirl it around in there to make sure I don't have any voids or anything. That also creates a nice little swirly pearl effect. Most of the excess, I filed it off with just a semi-coarse file. I've got that down almost to the surface of the wood. I'm going to put this neck back in the vise. We'll go back to our radius block, get these sanded down really nice and flat, and make sure everything's like we want it. I'll carry the sanding up to about probably 400 grit, I would imagine, with the sanding block. Then I'll switch over to doing this by hand. I'll put some 600 or 800 grit. I'll probably go up to 1,000 or 1,200 grit on the fretboard. For now, I want to get the fretboard to 400 with the radius sanding block. So let's get that done. And I'm just going to get after this. All right, I'm going to switch over to my 18-inch length block. and get myself a rhythm so I'm not running off the side. That way I can be absolutely certain that I'm getting flat. And I've got my 12-inch radius gauge. I am looking really, really good. So let's hit this with this 180 just a little bit more. Make sure we got those 80 grit scratches out. Now what we're going to do is move up to 320. And at this point, we'll check it and see. I may not go to 400 from here yet. We may wait. And what I also want to do is after I do this for a 10 or 15 strokes, I want to pencil the fretboard to make sure I haven't created an issue. So now we'll run a pencil down the fretboard. And we'll make sure that our radius block is cutting, or that I am cutting evenly from side to side. And I can see I'm removing all the pencil marks, so I feel decently confident that I've got a nice 12-inch radius on this fretboard. And I know I'm taking nice even cuts at this point, and that fretboard looks really, really gorgeous. Now I want to make certain that I've got a nice flat surface. So I'll put my straight edge down and I'll check it in 3 different points. And it looks like we are golden. So I want my headstock to be about 12.3, 12.4 millimeters. I think will give me adequate room. Over time, if the wood shrinks or swells or anything, I'll still have plenty of room to adjust my tuners and everything. Since these are press-in bushings and the tuners actually have 2 screws that go in the back, I'm not really worried too much about movement over time. I'm going to use my 2-inch sanding drum because I think it works best for this process. There's more surface area. It gives you a cleaner sand. I don't have to work as hard to get the material that I want removed. All right, what I'm going to do is take my ruler from the center and I'm going to mark a line at 13. I'm going to take a piece of this 1.25 inch wide tape, and I don't want to pull the tape. I want it to create a straight line from side to side. But really what's most important is that I'm at the proper depth right here where I drew that line at. And I am. So now I've got a nice straight line that I can use for this to be my edge. And I'll line this board up here just like so. Then I will take these clamps and attach to the bed. And I find that these clamps work better than really any other kind of clamp for this process. And I am right at 13 millimeters. And that's fine, but I am a little back on this side. I'm just going to give this just a little tap with a hammer. That I could see that move it. So we're good. And if you'll notice, I've got my clamps out of the way of this board, so that board acts as my fence. So I'm just going to go in here, just like so, keep my neck up against my fence, and let the sander do the work. There she be. Now that's going to remain clean, because if you guys will remember, my truss rod access is going to be in the hill. So that's a sweet neck right there. Actually, it's a sweet T-neck. So I hope you guys are half as excited as I am about it. If you are, you're approaching giddy. I mean it. I'm really super excited about it. I hope my enthusiasm and my my inspirational jubilance is vibing through the camera. I hope you guys get it. You know, I'm sure you do. I have a hard time hiding when I'm really into something, so I know you guys can tell, and I'm glad. What I want to do is draw off some marks here. First of all, I need a couple of no-go marks. I need to know certainly that I've got 76 millimeters of heel. Okay, so I'm just going to make a mark right there. That will be the flat, and my inserts, my threaded metal inserts, will be installed in that area. So I cannot come past here. So what we need to do now is just kind of shape in our transition. And this is just a rough shape. I'm not trying to be perfect here. I've got some lines drawn down through here. I've got some lines on the back. I've got one down the center, of course. And then you'll see I've got a line 2 millimeters on each side of my center line. I've got another line 10 millimeters from the edge out here. I've got a line 10 millimeters from this edge over to this line. Same thing on this side. Well, I've also got a line marked that is 8 millimeters below my fretboard. Now I know this is a lot of information. What is actually important at this particular time is the line that is 10 millimeters from this edge that way and 10 millimeters from this edge that way on both sides. We're going to start shaping this neck using the facet method. And I learned this method from Ben Crow. Now I know, you know, there's tons of people that use this same method for shaping a neck, but I learned it from him. The tools I'm going to be using for this process, this is a Shinto. This is basically about 10 hacksaw blades riveted together. These things are made in Japan. Absolute most valuable guitar cutting tool you could possibly have. I love the Shinto. And I will also be using my generic Dragon Rasp that I bought from Amazon for $15. And then I've got some other files and stuff that we'll get down as we need them. But for now, all I need is the Shinto, because the Shinto on the coarse side will absolutely remove some material. So I'm just going to start knocking this corner off right here. The reason I like the facet method is because you can visually see right here this edge that I'm cutting down through here. You can look down that edge and tell if it's the same width all the way down. That lets you know you are removing the same amount of material. Now what my goal is here is to reach that 10 millimeter line that I drew away from this edge that way, and to make that meet up with this 10 millimeter line that I drew from this edge that way. Then we'll repeat that same process on this side and we'll have our first facet. And there we go. I've got a nice hard facet. You can see that all the way down through here. That's a nice flat hard facet. We're going to do the same thing on this side. So I just want to get myself to that line. And once you break that corner with the shin toe, you're pretty much on then. It will go really quickly for you. And for the most part, you just want to let the shin toe do the work. You can vary your pressure a little and take off as much material as you feel like you need to. But like I said, you will surprise yourself with how much finesse you can develop with the shin toe. You guys can see I've got two nice flat facets down through there. So that's working out really well. And I can use this middle stripe. As long as I don't get into the maple yet, I'm okay. I don't want to get over into that maple yet. I want to create another facet in that area. All right, so I'm really happy with this side. Now I want to work a little longer on this side over here. There's where we are for now. I've got two nice hard facets on both sides of my neck. I'm happy with how it's going so far. We just did the largest facet we're going to do. The next facet I'm going to cut in is this small one right here along this edge. So you just want to make sure you keep an even amount from your fretboard to the beginning of the facet and from this facet where it rolls over that side. And I like to kind of establish my line along the fretboard edge first, and then clean that line up. I got carried away and just started shaping, but want to let you guys know so far the only two tools I have used on this is this short little generic dragon rasp. I used the shin toe and those two dragon rasps. That's all I've used. Actually, I didn't even use the long dragon rasp. I used the short one. And there is where I am right now. It's not perfect. It's not sanded, obviously, but I've started cutting in my transition right here. I really like that shape. I think that's going to be really nice. And I figured before I completely finish this, I'll let you guys watch me do this transition up into the heel right here. I didn't figure you wanted to sit there and watch me grind away on wood all night anyway. It's been about an hour and a half is what it took me to do this. About an hour and a half. So not that long by hand. And honestly, I find shaping the neck one of the most enjoyable parts of building. That really gets me in touch with what this guitar is going to wind up being. And on this neck, I decided while I was shaping it, and I'm not sure how much you can tell by this, you can see it, but I left, this is kind of an asymmetrical neck profile. I left it a little bit fatter on this side, and I started to flatten it out down on the treble side. And I've got a pretty round profile right here in the first, up till about the 7th fret. Then I start to flatten out. So not only do I have an asymmetrical profile, I've got a tapered profile as well, which I like. This neck feels fantastic already, and it's not even sanded. I mean, you could literally, even rough like this would be a great play in neck. I wanted to leave myself enough room to sand all these file marks and stuff out. So about 20 millimeters thick at the first fret, about 21 millimeters thick at the 12th fret. Let's cut in this profile, this little heel transition right here. So I'm done with the shin toe, and I've already started cutting in this. I just want to start working and smoothing all this out. Right here there's a little dip around that edge, so I want to smooth all that out. Work this into this, and I want a nice round fluid shape. I've got a pretty symmetrical rounded transition up into my heel, and I want to check and make sure we're nice and flat still on the back of our neck. I've got a little bit of a hump right here in the middle. Not bad. I mean, it's maybe a quarter of a millimeter. It's not bad at all. I'm not going to roll the edge of the fretboard over yet. This is absolutely beautiful, and it feels really, really killer. Nice rounded heel shape. I love that. Nice rounded, flowing up into the headstock shape, where a volute or a volute would be based on where you're from and how you say it. So I've got a bottle of Birchwood Casey True Oil right here. I'm shaking it real good, and I'm going to apply this with a paper towel. And I just want to get a nice even layer this first go round. And I don't like putting oil directly on the fretboard. I would rather put it on the rag and then go over it. And it's really not that important that if I get a little on the neck, it's not the end of the world. But you can kind of see what that does for that Ziricote. That is stunning. I mean, that is just really gorgeous. And I'm sure that's going to soak that right in. So we're going to wipe it down one more time really good. And I'm really just putting this on here now as a protectant. As we go through the rest of these processes, this will get done one more time. I can't get over how beautiful that Ziricote is. I just want to say thanks, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Come on back. I've got several more videos to come. We're going to finish these two builds. Once I get this body to the point that it's cut out and I've got the external sanding done, none of the routing or anything like that, just the external body shape, I am going to decide what kind of wood I'm going to use, glue that body blank up, decide whether or not I'm going to use a top or whether I'm going to paint it. I'm not sure. I've got so much wood at this point. I almost hate not to use a book match top on it. But we'll see. I've already got the neck blank done. It's glued up. You guys have seen that. But I need to get it shaped. I want to get Requiem to the point that Riza will be. I want to get it to the point where the neck shape, the tuners are drilled, the body shape's cut out, and it's ready. The neck's ready to fret. The body's ready to start routing, pickup cavities, bridge, whatever it needs. That way both these guitars will be at that same point. All right, everybody, this is Todd from Sweet Tea Guitars. And remember, until next time, don't be afraid of the unfamiliar. Dig deep, find what makes you happy, and do more of that. Peace and love.